Welcome back, everybody. I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince. And welcome to part 3 of my 2017 Halloween marathon on Mustang Prince Orro Reports. And tonight, we're going to close the book on the Casper trilogy. Previously, I blogged the Casper movie from 1995, and after that, I had to blog its prequel, Casper: A Spirited Beginning, which wasn't really that great. Anyway, before I get started on tonight's blog, let's discuss a good little witch named Wendy, who, of course, is a little witch who does good deeds. Wendy was first introduced in May 1954 as a backup feature, as well as a companion for Casper in Casper the Friendly Ghost number 20. Casper met and befriended her after stopping a major battle between witches and ghosts. After a total of 6 appearances, she received her own title, Wendy the Good Little Witch, in 1960. In 1958, Wendy had her first screen appearance in a theatrical Paramount Casper cartoon short called Witch is Witch. And in 1963, she became a frequent supporting character in the animated TV series, The New Casper Cartoon Show. So, occasionally, they had to feature Wendy in the third Casper movie. But, does this movie make up for the atrocity that happened in A Spirited Beginning? Well, let's find out. Released to home video on September 22nd, 1998, the movie is Casper Meets Wendy. So, let's get started. Living under the care of his uncles, the Ghostly Trio, Casper has been letting them push him around and making his afterlife very miserable by having him do chores for them while they are scaring fleshies for their amusement. While they decide to go on vacation, Casper meets with a good little witch girl named Wendy, whom she and her bewitching aunts are on the run from an evil warlock, Desmond Spellman, who attempts on destroying her after discovering that she will be a greater witch than him. Like Casper, Wendy is a kind witch who also has her relatives mistreating her. The two become good friends as they discover that ghosts and witches are each other's worst enemies. So, they come up with a plan to make their elders pair up with one another. Once Desmond comes into town, he determines to destroy Wendy at once. It is now up to Casper to do whatever he can to save his friend from the villainous warlock. So, what do I think of this movie? Well, I gotta say, this movie was a lot of fun and very thrilling, but still not as good as the 1995 film. But anyway, let's move on to Mustang notes. Hank Saban, best known for creating the Power Rangers, serves as an executive producer for this movie, and his production company, Saban Entertainment, was also involved. What's more, this movie won the Children's Programming Electronic Visual Effects Award. Also, in the original airing and VHS releases of the movie, the Casper theme song can be heard in the opening sequence performed by Shayna Halligan. And in my opinion, while it does feel kinda long, it's still a good cover, next to Little Richard's cover, that is. Unfortunately, in subsequent DVD releases, the lyrics are muted through the melody, and the sound effects remain intact. However, Halligan is still credited with performing the theme song. So, what are my thoughts on the visual effects? Well, to me, while they are a bit dated to today's standards, they still look pretty good when it comes to the magic effects. However, the CGI effects for Casper and the Ghostly Trio still move pretty stiff and jerky. And of course, some humans' performances are not really that great either. Now here's where we come to Sunny Bright Resort. In my opinion, this place looks like a nice vacation spot. Not only does it have nice, comfortable cabins, but it has fun things, like an arcade, a barn full of animals, roller skating, croquet, horseback riding, archery, and a swimming pool. As for the story, well, in my opinion, the story is a lot better than in Casper: A Spirited Beginning, because it focuses on a little witch who's on the run from an evil warlock who's trying to destroy her. To me, that idea sounds like an original story. Also, the idea of witches and ghosts being enemies may sound pretty familiar to some folks these days, but keep in mind, this movie came before the idea of vampires and werewolves being enemies in films like The Boy Who Cried Werewolf and the Twilight franchise. Plus, this movie does feature some funny puns. And now, let's talk about the thing that Desmond Spellman uses to try to destroy Wendy. The Mystic Abyss. This mystical dark abyss is so feared by all because, according to legend, anything or anyone, mortal or supernatural, that enters it disappears forever and never returns once they crossed over the threshold of the doorway. This void manifested as a, well, infinity vast, swirling bright and dark yellow portal that can be conjured through supernatural means, such as magic. When I first saw this on VHS during the movie's climax, it was pretty scary and intense for a Casper movie. Plus, it almost reminds me of that vortex that came from Mr. Firebird's time portal in Putt Putt Travels Through Time. Anyway, now that we're done with Mustang notes, let's move on to the cast. Casper the Friendly Ghost is once again voiced by Jeremy Foley, who got to be in Dante's Peak and the Caitlin's Way TV series. As usual, Casper is a very lovable ghost, and in this movie, Casper has improved both as a character and as a ghost. In other words, his shape-shifting skills are a lot better than last time. For example, he can become a motorbike rider, conjure up a tuxedo to wear, and as well as inflating himself and many other tricks. Plus, Casper is still a great ghost to be friends with. Plus, even though he doesn't like to scare humans, he can only do that in case of emergency. Also, Casper is very brave when trying to rescue Wendy from the Mystic Abyss. And he's pretty clever when he gets the idea of his uncles possessing some humans in order to hang out with Wendy's aunts in hopes that they can get along. Next we have Wendy the Good Little Witch, played by a young Hilary Duff, who after this movie grew up into Lizzie McGuire, as well as being in films like A Cinderella Story, Cheaper by the Dozen, Agent Cody Banks, and Food Fight. Anyway, as for Hilary in this movie, I thought she did great for her first role. Heck, even my sister felt the same way. Plus, she was really cute at the time. As for what I think of Wendy, well, she's more of a main character than Casper is, due to the fact that she and her aunts are on the run from Desmond Spellman. Also, one of my favorite scenes is when she and Casper have some fun around the resort, and when they dance at a party later on. Also, I think Wendy's broomstick is very feisty. Next we have Casper's uncles, the ghostly trio, Stretch, Stinky, and Fatso. Again, voiced by Jim Ward, Bill Farmer, and Jess Harnell. Like the first film, they are mostly obnoxious and selfish jerks when they scare Fleshies and Boss Casper around. But they do become better when they get together with Wendy's aunts and when they scare Desmond into the abyss to save the kids. However, there's one scene that gets me baffled, and that's when Fatso gets sunburn. I mean, normally that doesn't make sense because ghosts don't have skin. Next up are Wendy's aunts, Gert, Gabby, and Fanny, played by Kathy Moriarty, Shelley Duvall, and Terry Garr. To me, these three are pretty similar to the Sanderson sisters from Hocus Pocus, due to the fact that they like to do mischievous pranks. Also, like the ghostly trio, they treat Wendy like an outcast, but on the inside, they try to do their best to care for and protect their little niece. Next we come to our main villain, Desmond Spellman, an evil warlock played by George Hamilton. Best known from Love at First Bite, Zorro, the Gay Blade, and The Godfather Part 3. This guy is a very powerful warlock. When he finds out that Wendy might become better than him in the future, he's determined to get rid of her by sending her into the mystic abyss. His first attempt is to create 2 henchmen and send them to Wendy's house and capture her. But when that fails, his plan B is to use a radar machine to track Wendy down in case she or her aunts use any high-level magic. Next we have Desmond Oracle, played by Pauly Shore, who previously voiced Snivell in Casper's prequel and voiced Bobby in a Goofy movie. To me, this character is pretty similar to the magic mirror from Snow White and Shrek. But unlike them, the Oracle has a human person for a face instead of a mask. Also, not only does he appear in a mirror, but he can also appear on a computer screen. The only times the Oracle appears in the movie is at the beginning when he alerts Desmond that Wendy will become better than him and tells him to use the Mystic Abyss to destroy her. Later on, he tells Desmond that Wendy has befriended Casper, which, of course, is a step for Wendy to become a great witch. And, of course, the Oracle appears at the end of the movie, during the ending climax, and afterwards, he announces that Wendy is the greatest, after Desmond's defeat. Another character I need to talk about is this bad boy, Josh Jackson, played by Blake Foster, who has been in the Power Rangers TV series. At first, Josh seemed like a nice kid when he first met Wendy, but later, when Josh and his friend were being jerks to her and concentrating on an arcade game, it made Wendy become very disgusted, and she decides to ruin their game by using her magic to unplug the cord. Later, Josh tries to force Wendy to go to the dance with him, but she turned the offer down after the way he treated her, so she used her magic to humiliate him by spraying ketchup at him and had him thrown into the pool. Josh later becomes jealous when he finds Wendy dancing with an invisible Casper. Soon after Wendy uses her wand on the ghostly trio, Josh steals her wand and begins playing with it and tries to break it. But eventually, he gets his comeuppance when he and his friend get scared off by Casper, which causes them to drop the wand and they get turned into horses. Well, better them than me, due to the fact that I am part horse. Anyway, let's move on to my final words. Overall, Casper Meets Wendy is a pretty fun film to watch during the Halloween season. While the CGI effects on Casper and the ghostly trio are still not that great, the visual effects are pretty dated, and a few miscellaneous human actors don't do good performances, the story is still very charming, and it has an intense and serious conflict. Plus, Casper and Wendy make great chemistry as friends, and the villain Desmond Spellman is really threatening compared to other Casper villains like Kerrigan, Bill Case, or Kibosh. If you folks haven't seen this movie yet, then I highly recommend it. And if you have kids, I'll bet they'll enjoy it too. As for my final rating, I'll give this movie a 90% out of 100. Well, that's all for tonight, everybody. And I hope that Lazar Liv has enjoyed hearing my thoughts on each Casper movie. Anyway, be sure to join me in 2 Fridays for my next blog, because I think it's time to reacquaint myself with an old friend. Mustang Power!
Casper, friendly ghost, the friendliest ghost you know. The grown-ups might look in with fright, the children all love themselves.